Radiation is discharge. Discharging and discharged bodies cool. Cooling bodies generate. Generating bodies draw closer to each other. They attract. Generation heats. Heating under pressure is nature's method of assembling mass. Heating is nature's process of molding form. Cooling is nature's process of complexing form. All form is simplified by heating. All form becomes complex by cooling. The sun of a system shapes her melted planets into spheres, the simplest of forms, puts them out to cool, and thus begins their complexing. The complexities of nature's multitudinous forms in these effects, which we call living matter, begin with cooling. The closer the planets of a system, the more retarded the speed-time dimension and the higher the melting points of the system. It takes great contraction pressure to force bodies into close proximity. The greater the contraction pressure, the greater the resisting pressure. The greater the resistance of opposing pressures, the higher the melting point of a mass. If this law is well-founded, then high melting points, high pressure equilibrium, and the attraction of gravitation are related. Bodies in close proximity will not remain in close proximity if the contraction pressure force which keeps them there is released by the counter pressure of expansion. The less the resistance of opposing pressures, the lower the melting point of a mass. If this law is well-founded, then low melting point, low pressure equilibrium, and the repulsion of radiation are related. Thus it may be seen that preponderance of one opposite effect of motion is the condition precedent for the appearance of the other. Thus it may be seen that heat and cold, like all other effects of motion, take their respective positions on the universal seesaw and tilt up and down simultaneously, but alternate in their sequential preponderance of opposition. Thus it may also be seen that temperature is but an effect of motion, an illusion of dimension, born of motion only. It is in no way an attribute of substance. The one substance cannot be heated, nor can it be cooled. Like all opposites, heat and cold are born with and of each other. Let us consider whether or not the following commonly accepted temperature cycle is correct and complete. Cold contracts, contraction heats, heat expands, and expansion cools. Is not the cycle incomplete because of the omission of that which makes of this universe a creating or evolving one? Cold does not contract. Cold generates electric force. Electricity is the attractive force, and it is electric generation which contracts. It is proper to say that expanding bodies cool and that cooling bodies contract, but not that cold contracts. Conversely, heat does not expand. Heat radiates magnetic force. Magnetism is the separative force, and it is the separative force of radiation which expands. It is proper to say that contracting bodies heat, and that heating bodies expand, but not that heat expands. The complete temperature cycle is as follows. Cold generates. Generating bodies contract. Contracting bodies heat. This is centrifugal electric domination. Next, heating bodies radiate. Radiating bodies repel. Repelling bodies expand. Expanding bodies cool. And this is the centrifugal magnetic domination. Thus the cycle of opposition is completed. one effect of motion is always followed by its opposite. Cold integrating bodies decelerate rotation. Decelerated rotation contracts. Contracting bodies heat. This is the electric domination of centrifugal. Heating bodies disintegrate. Disintegrating bodies accelerate rotation. Accelerated rotation expands, and expanding bodies cool. This is the centrifugal, the magnetic domination. Thus is nature repetitive in all her states of motion by her method of conducting all her opposing dimensions in cycles. The temperature of the universe is constant. Any variation of the constant is but a multiplication or division of that constant in direct or inverse universal ratios, common to the variations of all dimensions according to whether the dimension is an expansion or a contraction pressure dimension. The ideal conveyed by the word heat developed or energy generated, wherein a heretofore presumably non-existent heat or energy is supposed to be developed, is not in accord with the laws of motion. Accelerated motion, being simply due to the decreased volume of a changed potential position, does not alter the constant of energy which produced that motion. The higher temperature of a decreased volume does not mean more heat than the lower temperature of the larger volume of an equal mass. It means that the same constant of heat has readjusted itself to the changed potential position in accordance with the 19th law of motion. The constant of heat energy is the same for both volumes and both masses. Any force of the universe of dimension is an opposing pressure force. The pressure force which compresses great volume into little volume and registers intensity of that compression in heat is the male, electropositive, general-active, electric force of inhalation. Inhalation is an endothermic force. That means that it is heat absorbing in the commonly accepted scientific sense. Heat absorbing in the true sense means gathering together the potential of resistance from a large area and compacting it into a small area of the same constant. The state of motion which produces incandescence is one in which the directions of the opposing forces are directly south and north across the pressure zones which define the orbits of floating bodies. A meteorite, for example, when attracted by this planet from its proper potential position where it floats in space, cuts across lots into the higher pressure zones of this planet, becoming luminous for the resistance to so disorderly an invasion of zones of higher pressure. The temperature of a meteorite increases in inverse universal ratio as it approaches the planet toward which it is falling. Increase of temperature is a contraction pressure dimension. A falling meteorite is an effect of gravitation which produces incandescence because of the rapid change of its potential position. A comet falling to the sun is almost analogous to a falling meteorite. Its potential position is such that its path evades the sun and gives it a continuous orbit which eventually ends by a plunge into high pressures near the sun, exactly as a meteorite is worn away and disappears into incandescence by the resistance of the Earth's high pressures. A comet falling to its perihelion is an effect of gravitative preponderance, and one rising to its aphelion is an effect of radiative preponderance.